Redis Business Solutions, who offer fleet management and mobility solutions towards B2B companies who manage large amount of vehicles and who need mobility, connectivity, and communication solutions.
You mentioned data and storytelling. How do you balance those?
You always have to balance between different types of worlds and different types of disciplines and functions. It's really about doing the balance between talking to your consumers, doing qualitative and quantitative testing, looking at the product insights that you get.
How do you think good marketing actually looks like?
It's extremely benchmark driven and revenue driven and really focusing on demand generation. So looking at the overall company goals.
All right, welcome to another episode of Future of Consumer Marketing by Global Talent. Today I'm joined by Catherine Aleksidze, Head of Marketing at Radius as of now. Catherine, thank you so much for coming. Maybe you would like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about, what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm Catherine Aleksidze. I'm living in Berlin and working as a marketeer for about 12 years now. Wow. And I've had many different steps within my career. I started off from sales and account management and slowly made my way into marketing. I worked for Zalando for about 4.5 years, a very substantial part within my journey with marketing, branding, storytelling. And for the past, and then right now, I'm working with Redis Business Solutions, who offer fleet management and mobility solutions towards B2B companies who manage fleets, who operate a large amount of vehicles and who need mobility, connectivity, and communication solutions. Between Zalando and Radius, I've had some stops also within the B2B software side, but maybe we can dive into that later.
Sure. How's the talent Zalando shaped you as a marketer, and what do you think you learned about the consumer during your time there?
Yeah, so Zalando is it was a really exciting and a very exciting time within my career growth, within my learning of marketing and branding and sales. And Zalando is, as everybody knows, is one of the most successful startups coming from Berlin and coming from I believe they've created a platform, a whole universe of connecting between brands and consumers in a very inspirational way. And they've done that in a quite short amount of time, so very impressive. I worked in Zalando Marketing Solutions, which is essentially the business, let's say the exclusive marketing agency that supports brands with increasing their visibility within the Zalando hemisphere. And they offer different kinds of solutions to help brands to achieve their branding and growth goals. They've got different kinds of propositions and umbrella propositions, but the major 3 pillars are data, influencer marketing, and ad space. And within that space, I kind of grew and learned and developed as a marketeer and also as a proposition developer. What we did there was extremely exciting because the Zalando Marketing Solutions kind of grew together with the brands, with the very high-profile fashion brands that are out there. So all of the sports brands, all of the accessory brands, the luxury brands, everybody that everybody knows, all of the brands that everybody knows very well. And that was my privilege to be a part of that journey and to work together with these fashion brands. And as a fashion enthusiast myself, I would say that it was very nice to be there and to be able to be exposed and learn also from how other fashion brands do it, how they do marketing, how they do storytelling. What I did for Zalando Marketing Solutions is I have In the beginning, I worked as a brand manager or a brand consultant to help them achieve their goals. And that slowly I moved into B2B proposition development. So you can see it as a marketing B2B mini advertising product that enables these fashion brands to reach their consumers in a more native way.
As a blueprint or
As a product, as a monetized product. So for example, if you go on Zalando and you see different kinds of influencer images, some of them are curated by brands, and those can be are curated by brands and pushed by brands and are also sponsored by brands. And this whole proposition is something that me and the team we've created. We've done the overall, from ideation to go to market to iterations to actually selling the products to improving it, user tests both on a brand and on the end consumer side. So very excited things.
there are so many dimensions at Zalando of, how they do things, who they work with, revenue streams, products. Super interesting. And you mentioned data and storytelling just now. How do you balance those?
You always have to balance between different types of worlds and different types of disciplines and functions. And this is just an example for two very different worlds that you have to juggle as a marketeer. And this is one of the things that I'm also very excited about when it comes to marketing, the fact that it's not just one thing. You really have to be cross-functional. You have to work with a lot of different stakeholders, and you need to understand different sides of the business to be able to be successful. And when it comes to data and storytelling, it's really about doing the balance between looking at talking to your consumers, doing qualitative and quantitative testing, looking at the product's insights that you get, right? So like from working very closely with the product teams as well, but like understanding, okay, how many, if I have a B2B product, how many people actually come to my, open the app or open the software? How many, which areas of the app are they actually interacting with? Are there any areas where they really churn or they bounce off of? Why, right? And then all of these insights that you can get, like marketing insights, ad insights, product usage insights, and anything that's got to do with website activity insights. All of these, you've really got different kinds of pillars of data that you can work with, and it's great. It's very good that we have all of these data sets. It's also very important not to get lost with these large amounts of data, and really kind of to be able to zoom in and out of the different data sets that you can work with. But all of this can be harnessed for the purpose of your marketing strategy and storytelling. And I think when you make that balance in creating if you have a vision of what you want to do, and you think, okay, I think that this is going to work for my product, and I think this is going to work for our next success story, you can use some of the data insights and everything that you've learned to validate the hypothesis that you have. And you should have this kind of balance of having of taking some risks, but also validating some of the hypotheses that you have. So I think it's a balancing act when it comes to data and storytelling, just like everything with marketing. With marketing, it's a balancing act between commercial, products, strategy, proposition, customer obsession, and storytelling, branding, and planning, and bringing all of these together. I think that's the same with data and storytelling.
Beautiful. It almost, it takes a very special type of mindset, as you're describing, kind of a very Renaissance approach to things. You have to be kind of omnipresent at all places at the same time, but also be like super focused and have this sort of experimental play approach and just try out things. I think you put it really well and kind of invited me into your yes. All right. And what do you think a good how do you think good marketing actually looks like? How do you define how do you define how good looks like for yourself?
I think it's kind of a journey that every marketeer goes through, and you, based on your experiences, you've generate the learnings and you kind of fine tune on how you do your strategy and how you build your marketing methodology. When I think about my marketing and my marketing approach within the B2B sphere, right? So within Zalando, I've worked with B2B within a B2C environment, but for the past few years, I've been very focused on the B2B side of things, which is which can be pretty particular, like B2C and B2B within marketing. The methodologies can be similar, but they're also very different from each other in various ways. I think that for me, marketing, the way that I do marketing, especially for the past few years, is extremely benchmark driven and revenue driven and demand generation, like really focusing on demand generation. So looking at the overall company goals that we have. So revenue goals, uplift goals year over year, and any kind of sales goals that we have strategically as a company. And then I need to think about how does me and the marketing team enable the company to achieve those goals. And it can come from different kinds of channels and strategies, from content to performance to thought leadership. But the way that I do it is very revenue driven, very commercial driven. And then I work a lot with different kinds of benchmarks that enable me to understand if we're on the right path or not.
What do you think is the biggest shit sort of upcoming in the marketing? Yeah, how do you think it's gonna change things? And also, are you maybe preparing for anything yourself?
I mean, I think this everything that's got to do with automation and AI is going to change drastically the way that we do marketing, the way that we approach planning, the way that we do content creation, and the way that we collect data and insights. I think a lot of the world is definitely going to change in various ways. So it's a lot of people, like smarter people, say that there will be a paradigm change in the career world, in the professional worlds, in how we organize ourselves as a society with the help and the support of AI. So I feel like what is certain is that change is going to come in sales and marketing and products. Things are going to look very different 10 years from now than what they look like today. I cannot tell you how exactly, but I do know that the way that we do marketing right now is going to look very different.
Did you already try out content creation with AI?
I did. I mean, I usually oversee the content creation, and we do the planning, and then the automation side of things kind of comes from the designer or the content creator. Usually the way that we do it is we use the help of other tools in order to create success stories, for example, or case studies, or any kind of trailers or video tutorials on the product side, or introducing our product. So the amount of resources and time that it saves us is phenomenal, and it's very exciting. And I think. And we are every day surprised on how fast things move and how fast we can automate a lot of the things that we've been doing before. So if you're as a marketeer, if you're not on top of things when it comes to the automation, the AI functions, the different tools, and if you don't take the time to educate yourself, you're probably going to be left behind.
True. Is there a trend that most marketers are sleeping on, and you think they better wake up?
What I do see is a lot of marketeers what marketeers are not doing well right now is they get lost in the details. I see a lot of marketeers, marketing leaders kind of going into why didn't we have a good CTR on our marketing campaign from this past month, or why weren't people engaging enough with our newsletter, or very kind of really going deep into the details, try to analyze the details. It could be from a marketing campaign. It can be from from a performance marketing campaign to a content campaign. It can be engagement with a webinar or some kind of feedback or responses or lack of responses to some kind of piece of content that you put out there. And again, with the large amounts and access of data that we have with HubSpot and advertising platforms, the different advertising platforms that we're all juggling. So most marketeers these days use different kinds of advertising tech stacks, and they really try to juggle between many of them. And the smart ones are probably using a tool to bring all of the data into one. But a lot of us are kind of like, we have such an operational workload that you don't even have time to look for that right tool that would enable you to combine all of the data into one single source of truth. And hint, that's actually something that I would advise a lot of marketeers to do, as in don't leave your data spread out across different kinds of systems. Try to focus everything into one tool. HubSpot does that pretty well, but there are also dedicated tools, digital tools that help you to do that, and also to kind of pull in performance data as well as content data and CRM data into one. I'm a big fan of HubSpot.
Do you recommend any of the other tools?
No, I wouldn't say. I don't have a recommendation right now in mind, but there are really great tools who do that. And for me, if I've set up HubSpot for other companies as well, also as a fractional CMO, and I'm very happy with the way that they do things, with the way that they do attribution, campaign attribution, content attribution, performance. So and the way that they kind of connect between sales and marketing dashboards, even though it can be quite pricey for many of our smaller startup Berlin tech bubble. I think HubSpot can be quite a very good all-in-one solution. What I would suggest, or I would advise, is to really make that balance between the zooming out and zooming in on what actually matters to you as a marketeer at the end of the day. Don't get lost in the details. Don't get lost in the engagement KPIs. Look at the revenue driving and demand generating KPIs. What is going to move the needle for you as a revenue generating marketeer? Because you as a marketeer, as a leader, as a B2B, let's say a senior, maybe you're a senior leader, maybe you're a B2B marketeer. If you always tie your goals into the business goals and the revenue and commercial goals, this is what's going to enable you to get that buy-in from your peers and from your stakeholders and from the management, because that's the language that they speak. And if you can make that connection between marketing and revenue and company goals, that's going to enable you to be successful. So really make that balance between zooming in, zooming out. Don't get lost in the details.
Catherine, I think that you having that ability sort of explains the fact why you were ahead of marketing, because ahead always like in the literal sense, because you have to, like you said, both zoom out and zoom in and have that sort of helicopter view and on view of things. I think that you underestimate that it's sort of like a mental muscle that has to be trained, and when you don't have it trained. Yes. Were you always like this, or did you just work on yourself throughout the years?
Good question. No, I wouldn't say this is something that's a skill set that needs to be developed, especially from a commercial and a marketing sales. And I think with time and experience, you get to understand what's an important KPI and what's not an important KPI. You have to also align, you should understand for yourself, what is my most important KPI when it comes to marketing? Is it really reaching that ROI? So return on invest, I put 100K, I want to have a positive ROI from that 100K. A positive ROI is between 1 to 4. So you put €1, you get €4 back. That's like a average. That's like a good ROI. If anything is below 4, then you're like, that's actually probably not, maybe it's not beneficial for us for the long run. Anything above 4 is great. So, and we're not talking about running costs here. So office costs or employee FTE costs, that doesn't go into the calculation of the 1 to 4. But if you put 10K in a investment in going to an event, and the amount of leads that you generate from that event amount to 40K, then you know that you're doing well. And that's something that we have done multiple times. And I have done multiple times with my event strategy, with my event planning. Okay, I put 10K, I put 20K, and then I sit very closely with the sales team in order to attribute what leads actually generated from that event. And that can take time, right? Especially when it comes to B2B. It's not like, okay, I go to an event, boom, 2 weeks, I get 40K back. It definitely doesn't work like that. And it's really up to us as marketeers to attribute, report, make sure that the sales team are actually putting in the data into HubSpot, into the CRM, that they know, okay, I'm gonna make sure that this lead or this deal is attributed back to this event that we did in Cologne, because that's going to be important for the marketing reporting and ROI calculation at the end of the quarter, right? And then I can come at the end of the quarter and say, like, something that we did 4 months ago has actually panned out. And that's the important part when it comes to marketing reporting and accountability and ownership. And yeah, going back to your question, it's something that you have to, it's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of educating yourself. And like you say, it's a muscle.
Day in, day out. Yes. All right. As a head of marketing, how would you constitute a perfect marketing team for yourself? Let's say a marketing team of the future. Who would you meet, like, essentially in your team in order for this to work?
It's a good question. I think if you should also think about the future, right? With everything that AI has in store for us. And if I look at marketing, and I would focus on the B2B side of things, and I would look at a team that has, let's say, that has different kinds of individuals and functionalities. And I would really focus on a growth marketeer. And I would also have some kind of a marketing operations. So I know that right now it's very hyped to have a revenue operations representative and in different kinds of businesses. And I think you definitely need a marketing operations expert. Then I would probably also have a automations or an AI support. I don't know if this has to be like a full-time, but any kind of support that it comes to automating and alleviating operational tasks and monetized tasks would be amazing. And that job on its own is like a full-time job. Mm-hmm. So it's because from a commercial side, the marketing guys have enough to do, and they, without them having to think, oh, how can I automate this process, right? So, and then of course a designer. I mean, with all of the automations in AI, you definitely need a designer. You need a designer and you need a content person. But you need a content person that really understands your client and really understands your business. When I was looking for my content person with my previous employer, I was working on within a B2B merchandising company. I was looking for a content person that had a very large umbrella of skill sets. And this content person is not just like content it's not just creatives and ads or creating social media posts and it's not the copy side is a very small side of content, right? It's really about understanding what do you want to write about? Who is my target audience? How do I understand their pain points into such a deep level that will enable me to stand out from the crowd, right? And it's very much of a commercial business and skill set. Like you need to have a business acumen and you need to be a very good business person to be able to write content about a B2B proposition. Because we're talking about KPIs, we're talking about calculators, we're talking about tools that will help you to achieve a certain goal as my target audience. So the content person, just to give you an example for what kind of skill sets I would be looking for as a cross-functional content marketing manager, and I would be looking for communication skills, analytical skills, project management skills, content, of course, so content or marketing, and then to be able to and stakeholder management skills. And when I told that to my HR manager back at the time, she's like, "Are you sure that there's a person like that out there?" And I was like, I know it's going to be challenging, but we eventually we found her.
All right. Is there anything you're excited about in 2026? Any particular goals you set for yourself or benchmarks, like you put it?
I'm very excited about what's going to happen with Radius Business Solutions now with our penetration into the German market. So Radius Business Solution has been we're a global company founded in the UK over 30 years ago. And right now we're kind of, we have a solid customer base in Germany, but in comparison to the overall market, there's really a lot to do. And I'm very excited about bringing Radius Business Solutions into the German market, gaining this brand awareness and making sure that people, so our target audience and our community and mobility community in Germany knows about Radius and everything that it has to offer.
All right. We wish you also success with that. And that was Catherine Aleksidze. Thank you so much for coming. It was fast.
Thank you. I was very happy to be here.